So could you as a student or an employee benefit from an extra hour or two sleep every night? I know I could, and I believe that students in our elementary schools and high schools could benefit as well. And this could be done by delaying the start time of school. It's important to know about this topic because I'm sure everyone in here and watching has someone in their life that is going to go to elementary school and high school or has already attended or is attending these schools. So today in my speech, I'm going to talk about the benefits of starting school later in the day. I believe I'm a good person to talk about this topic because I've done lots of research, written many papers, and I'm passionate about the topic. So today, I'm going to talk about the benefits of starting school later, and these include things such as improving academic performance, helping to decrease the number of students that are dependent on caffeine, and help to reduce the number of health-related issues that are accompanied with sleep deprivation. So moving into my first point, starting school later in the day could help to increase academic performance. So in a study done by Time.com in an article that was called Let Your Kids Sleep for Better Grades, researchers found a direct link between poor performance in the classroom and the amount of sleep they got. So the more sleep a student was getting, the better they were doing in school. A clinical psychologist in the same report actually came out and said that that sleep is a poor or little sleep is a significant risk factor in academic performance. Researchers have also investigated the brain and different areas of the brain and their function. So you see down here, here's a picture of the brain, and it labels the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is actually involved in thinking, memory, and planning. And insufficient sleep has been attributed to a decline in these functions and this area of the brain. So down here, this is a different study. That was a graph that was released from a different study done by Kyra Wollstrom from the University of Minnesota. She is explaining here that students just do not get enough sleep, and they are not being able to perform in the classroom as well due to this decline in sleep. And the National Sleep Foundation actually released a study and said that students ages 5 to 12 should be getting 10 to 11 hours of sleep tonight, and that's just not happening. In a separate study done by Washington University, they actually conducted a study in which they looked at 2 schools from Seattle. And in this study, they moved back to start time at school 45 minutes. And they actually saw an increase in the median time of sleep for students of 34 minutes. And this helped to increase the attendance at school, and they saw an increase in academic performance. They focused primarily on one biology class, and from the semester before to that new semester, which students were getting a later start date or later start time, they saw a increase of 4.5% of average grade. So as you can see, starting school later in the day can actually increase academic performance. This leads me into my second point of how starting school later in the day could actually lower the number of students that are dependent on caffeine. So in a report from verywellhealth.org, they came out and said that there's a direct link between the amount of sleep someone gets and caffeine use. So a person that sleeps less is more likely to use caffeine, and the more caffeine they will more likely use. The American Academy of Pediatrics came out and said that young adults and children should actually not consume caffeine. However, teens are turning to caffeine when they are not getting enough sleep, and this is not good. There are side effects that accompany the use of caffeine. These things include nervousness, restlessness, and insomnia. And in some studies, actually, caffeine has been linked to brain development, and caffeine has been seen to actually disrupt the network connections in the brain and neural connections, and this can slow down cognitive development. In a study that was done by PLOS1, they looked at rats and how caffeine affected their development. Young rats were introduced to as much caffeine as the equivalent caffeine of 3 to 4 cups of coffee as the humans, and they saw a decline in brain development compared to young rats that had no caffeine exposure. So taking out caffeine from from our students' diets can be very beneficial, and this can be achieved by starting school later in the day. This brings me to my third point in how starting school later in the day could actually help to decrease the health-related issues that accompany sleep deprivation. So, what is sleep deprivation? It's just simply an inadequate amount of sleep. And inadequate sleep can lead to, or can have several consequences. These include just not being able to function very successfully during the day and just being very lethargic. And in a study that was released by betterhealth.gov, they actually looked at children and how sleep loss can contribute various health issues, and they saw an increased risk of depression and actually attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. And then in a separate study done by Harvard, they actually came out and said that prolonged sleep loss and sleep deprivation can actually increase the likely risk of getting diseases such as diabetes and obesity. And obesity is actually seen because when a person sleeps, there are metabolic activities that take place, and these metabolic activities help to take away cells and help you lose weight, essentially. And these processes aren't regulated as well when a person is awake and not sleeping, so a decrease in sleep can actually increase the likelihood of obesity, and this can be seen in our children when they do not get enough sleep. So as you see here, there's actually a separate study that was done at Columbia University, and you can see how drastic the difference in hours from 8 to 6 to 4 hours of sleep can be on your risk, or on the likely risk of you becoming obese. And there are many things that can be done to help get our students and our children more sleep, and this can be achieved by moving back the start time of school. So in all, there are various benefits to moving back the school start time. These benefits include improving academic performance, decreasing the number of teens and students that are dependent on caffeine, and can help to reduce the health-related issues that accompany sleep deprivation. All of these things are pros to starting school later in the day, and if you want to do more research, you can look at the bibliography I've attached at the end of my slides, and you can reach out to your school board and your superintendent to make an impact in your community.